It's late, isn't it? It usually is when videos like this appear. You didn't search for this. It surfaced between everything else you were using to avoid the thought you're avoiding right now. So let me say the thought out loud so you don't have to. You are afraid that your life is passing without you in it, not ending. Passing. There's a difference. And somewhere in the last year, you started to feel that difference in your chest. In the next 13 minutes, I want to show you something a Roman philosopher understood 2,000 years ago about people exactly like you, and why the fear you feel tonight is not a warning that it's too late. It's evidence that it isn't. Here is how a life goes missing. Not in one catastrophe, in deferrals. You gave this year to a job that would never have given you a week of itself. You gave your evenings to a glowing rectangle that has never once asked how you're doing. You gave whole seasons to people who required you to be smaller than you are, and you called that being reasonable. And underneath all of it, one quiet transaction repeated itself day after day. You traded today for a someday you have never met. Someday, when things settle down. Someday, when you feel ready. Someday, after this one last obligation. Be honest. How old is that someday now? 5 years? 10? You've been standing in the waiting room of your own life, being polite, letting everyone else go first. And the strangest part is that nobody stole your time. You handed it over, freely, to anyone who asked. That's why nothing feels wrong on paper. Nothing has to be wrong on paper for everything to be wrong in you. Around the year 49, a man named Seneca, advisor to an emperor, one of the wealthiest and busiest men in Rome, sat down and wrote an essay that should have been impossible to write that long ago, because it reads like a diagnosis of you. He called it On the Shortness of Life, and its argument is not what you'd expect. He didn't say life is short. He said we make it short. Life is long enough, he wrote, if you know how to use it. The tragedy is not that we have too little time. It's that we are careless with the only thing we can never get more of. Think about how you guard your money. You know where it goes. You'd notice if someone took it. And yet your hours, the only currency that actually runs out, leak away untracked, and you couldn't tell me where last month went. Seneca watched the most powerful men in Rome do exactly this. Postpone living until retirement. Until the next appointment ended, until the season turned, preparing to live forever and never living. He wrote that the greatest waste of life is postponement, because it throws away the day you're in, holding you hostage to a tomorrow that no one has ever been promised. Hear that again, slowly, because it was written for you. No one has ever been promised the tomorrow you keep spending in advance. Now, the question underneath the question. Why is this reaching you tonight? This video, this idea, this exact moment. There's no magic in it, and that makes it more remarkable, not less. For months, you've been leaving evidence. The searches at midnight, the videos you linger on, the posts about a life you keep calling unrealistic. every one of those was a signal, and the signals became a pattern, and the pattern led here. In other words, you sent for this. Some part of you, the part that refuses to be quietly filed away, has been pulling messages like this one toward you, the way a drowning person pulls at air. Ancient people would have called that a sign from the gods. Seneca would have called it your own nature refusing the arrangement. Call it whatever lets you take it seriously, because a message only finds the person who is already reaching for it. You are not being interrupted right now. You are being answered. So here is the part you won't like. Nothing rescues you from this. Not this video, not the next one, not a new year, a new app, a new city, a new person. You have been waiting for a permission slip. And I need you to hear this clearly. There is no one alive who can sign it. Everyone you're waiting for. The boss who finally values you. The family that finally understands. The future self who finally feels ready. None of them are coming, because readiness is not something you receive. It's something you spend. And I know what your mind is doing right now. It's drafting the counter-argument, the obligations, the timing, the people who depend on you. Some of that is real, but watch what that list is actually for. You don't keep it because it's true. You keep it because it's safe. As long as your life is someone else's fault, you never have to find out what happens when it's in your hands. That's the deal you've been making. Safety in exchange for postponement. A small life now for an imaginary one later. Seneca had a line for people who make that deal into old age. They do not live long, he said. They exist long. There's one more thing you should know about time, and it's the hardest one. It doesn't feel like it's running out. That's the trap. Every wasted day feels survivable because there's always tomorrow, right up until the day there isn't. You will not get a warning. There is no alarm that sounds when someday quietly becomes never. There is only tonight, and the small, unglamorous fact that you are still here, still able to choose, which means the only honest question left is not, when will I be ready? It's, what would I do today if I finally believed no one was coming? Here's what Seneca knew that the hustle merchants never tell you. Reclaiming your life does not begin with doing more. It begins with taking back what you already have. Today, 1 hour of your time will try to leave without your permission. Catch it, just 1 hour, and spend it on purpose, on the skill you keep postponing, on the conversation you keep rehearsing, on silence. If silence is what you've been starved of, it will feel absurdly small. It is not small, because the person who deliberately spends 1 hour has done something the waiting person never does. They have stopped treating their life as something that starts later, and a strange accounting takes over from there. The hour becomes an evening. The evening becomes a habit. The habit becomes, quietly, without announcement, a different life. Not a cinematic transformation. Something better. A life that is actually occurring in the only tense where life ever occurs. Present. Years from now, there will be a version of you that looks back at this exact night. That version already knows which way you chose. The only thing not yet decided is what they know. So before this ends, do one small thing. Not for me, for the record. Write one word in the comments. Today. Not a promise, a timestamp. Proof that on this date, at this hour, you stopped waiting. And if this found you the way I think it did, there's another message waiting about the voice in you that calls your dreams unrealistic, and whose voice that actually is. It's here when you're ready. But the hour comes first. Go take it back.